Welcome to the kitchen. This isn't my kitchen. So if you're missing my kitchen, I'm sorry. I moved. My kitchen isn't as easy to film in, but I'm not here to talk about my kitchen or my new office that looks like I just moved in, but I did. I'm here to talk about your first race car. And my first race car that I bought, because I borrowed one when I first started racing. It was an RC10. That was, I can't even tell you how many years ago because my memory is clouded with all the cars and kits that I've had. But I can tell you it was my favorite car that I've owned, even if I haven't admitted that, because it got me into racing. It got me into tuning, it got me into modifying. Back in the day, you bought a kit and it came with terrible tires, terrible servo. I mean, we had a mechanical speed control that, was a swiper. What the hell is all this crap? Most people today wouldn't even know what that means. Is a resistor with a wire and you burnt it out if you went too slow. It was a nightmare, but it was awesome because you had to buy a lot of parts. Nowadays, you buy a buggy, a pro kit, you don't really have to change a thing. You build it, I'm pointing to something here, and you throw it on the track, and it's awesome. Sure, you gotta buy electronics. I got those. I got a battery. I got an awesome servo. I got a spec 17.5 motor, which I hate stock, but I'm gonna run it because that's what I can run because I'm too old for modified at this point, I think. I haven't raced a buggy in years. And you got a speed control. You got all this stuff. But what I don't get is in today's world, off-road cars are divided into two categories. And Team Associated sent me a race kit. And from the box, you can't even tell what it is. It just says Associated. What the hell is that? I don't know. Until you open the box. Or maybe you look at the edge. But it's divided by two. Because this is the newest buggy just released. And everybody's going to get mad that Associated comes out with a new buggy every year. It's fine. You need a new kit every year. Stop crying to read this. I'm old and I don't remember. It's an RC10 B6.3. And here's the division. And you may not like it, like me, because I don't like it. But I got the one that I did want. The D. Do you know what the D's for? Not that pervert. It's for dirt. Today's buggies are divided into they're segregated. You can run on dirt, off-road. That's what it means. Or you can run on carpet, off-road, like in your house. So thankfully, I still got the D because that's what I'm going to try racing. And today, I'm going to build it. And then I'm going to talk about it while I build it, edited, because nobody wants to sit here and watch an idiot put his hinge pin on. But I'm going to tell you what I like about building it and what it means to get the D. We're doing a little side view cam here today because I don't like unboxings. There's nothing in a box. It's a bunch of parts in a bag. But what I do want to point out is that Associated is something different. Something that may bother people. No, not the body. The body looks pretty good. Not ugly. Traction in the front with the arrow. But what they did do, I'm looking at the wrong thing. They numbered their bags. So for everybody excited about a D bag, or bag D, you don't got it. You're on bag 8. What does that mean? No D bag for you. Let's take a look at the most important part of building any kit, the instructions. They're good. CAD drawings, I know there's an update, so make sure that you always visit the website of any kit you're building to see if they have an update. Sometimes they forget to put a shim in there and nobody catches it. I do know there was a release at some point that I'm going to have to download. The nice thing about Associated's instructions is they have the hardware list over here. So instead of having you line it up on every page, say I'm using a 3mm, 10mm, anything like that, it stays on that side, and when you flip the page, you still have the reference. Hey, I need this screw? I look over here and there it is. So that's smart. It's also smart that we went to the metric system. I no longer have to figure out math. Listen, America, I know we're smarter because we have to figure out what 5/64ths mean, but I'm okay with 2mm, 2.5mm, 3mm, and that's it. That's all we ever need in a kit. Maybe a 1.5. I'll give you that. But none of this, fraction crap. I'm over it. Fade in like we did something here. One of the things you need is this, an electric screwdriver. I mentioned this before in other videos. Here's the downside of what happened to me. I moved. I can't use a Phillips head screwdriver. So this, I got no use for it. I got to use a wrench now. So the upside to using this is that it doesn't hurt your hands. You don't get blisters. The downside is if you use this and it goes too fast, you heat up the plastic and make it brittle. So you got to be really careful. This one has an electronic clutch, so you can set it to not strip out your plastic as well. So I recommend one of these. Just get one that can go slow, because you don't need to build it like you're in F1 pits and change all 4 tires in 2 seconds. We're not Red Bull. We don't need it to be that fast. Take your time. I recommend using a wrench just because you can't burn the plastic out, but this makes everything so much easier. But I can't buy my tips, so no Phillips heads.
Just a quick note on the bearings, they're only shielded on one side, so obviously put the shielded side towards the dirt, outside, unshielded towards the centers.
Some of these things I'm going to talk about are just really simple, but this is a steering rack. It's got a lot of bearings in there, total of 6 in there. That's a lot of bearings for a steering rack. But just make sure your dangly bits are like a summer dangle. Loose and free, not high and tight. So make sure these screws they're not meant to be socked down. They can have a tiny bit of play. Feel a little tick tick, that's the right amount. You can't have it too tight or they bind. Just binding's not good. So, they'll be bound up.
If you have bad eyes and can't read like me, the instructions aren't really clear on showing you the exact position of the front hub and the caster blocks. So this hopefully will help you see how it's supposed to be set up in the like kingpin in front, stuff in back. And you can see the carbon fiber Ackerman plates that you can change if they decide to make an adjustment on that too. No more E-clips. You're secured by a screw.
We're just finishing up bag 2 here in the kitchen / not kitchen. And I'm on the front shock tower. Go over this in a second. Front end's almost done here. Pretty easy, nothing crazy, really. But so one of the things that makes the D different is right here. I don't know if it'll catch it, but it says Gull Wing. So the D has Gull Wing arms. It's always been a tuning option to have the arms that are straight, usually for more high traction, and the Gull Wing to give you a little bit more roll and traction, I guess, in off-road dirt, the real stuff. But anyway, what I find it odd is that the front shock tower comes with these cool factory team bushings, blue, and then it comes with a plastic mount that I'm going to bolt over and stop any sort of adjustment without taking that cap off. Now, it looks pretty, but maybe you don't tune really quick anymore, and I'd rather look pretty and have the caps captured. I don't know, maybe it's just from so you don't get rammed in the dirt and the screws get covered with mud. I guess I could see that being smarter, but in today's racing, I mean, you don't race in mud, so, but whatever, it's got a pretty cap. So use the cap if you don't have to, I guess, if you want to have it so where you can change your shock settings every second. But anyway, just a little odd thing I picked up on here. Front ends, nothing crazy. Here's you can see the Gull Wings, how they have little bent arms. Yeah, bent. And the servo's in with metal mounts. Remember to use Loctite on metal. Never on plastic on plastic. I'm talking, if you're building this car, I think you should know that. Don't be stupid, but Loctite eats plastic. That's why you don't put it in plastic. But it will bind metal. So make sure you got some Loctite. Obviously you need servo. And then we're going to get on to bag 3 in a second.
Some of the major changes that seem to be on every kit is just shock angles and camber link positions. This is a diagram showing you the previous edition's shock towers compared to the new one. I'd like to actually see like an evolution over time of the angles and lengths starting from the original and now, just to see how that angles have changed and swayed back and forth. And it's probably why they haven't changed it to the B7, although I think the 4-wheel drive is B7, but why they're adding dots, because these are incremental changes that it's not really a design change, but more of just geometry.
So, final bag 2 thoughts here. Big, if you're from the Midwest, big. Shock tower's installed. cap on. Gull Wing words towards me. Can't read it anymore, but if you're behind the car, you can see it's the Gull Wing version. The issue I had here, two things. This is the front wing brace. So if you want to run that ugly front wing for more stability and steering, you can. It's ugly. Probably works, but I put it on there. Just be careful, 10 and 14 millimeter screws. If you don't run it, use the 10. I put it on even though I may not run it, because I don't want to find the 14 millimeter screws later. I will not remember them, and it's 10 millimeter, and then you won't have the proper setting. The other issue here is that when I was tightening the shock tower to the bulkhead, right here, that I tightened the bottom ones first and then the top ones, and I noticed that it wasn't pulling tight against when I did the bottom ones first. So just be careful when you're tightening that to make sure it sits flush against the bulkhead back here and that you're tightening it square. You don't really want to tweak it. I don't think you can tweak this car. It's kind of keyed together, but you don't want to have it where half the shock tower is twisted and then you're pulling it back in by tightening a screw. So make sure you do it evenly, unlike me. I'm uneven. Bag 3 in the books. This bag was pretty easy, actually. It's a short one. Like I said, the only complication I had was just getting the arm or the hub position correctly, of figuring out what it was supposed to look like. Again, I'm gonna put a little, it's gonna go to a picture when I have my studio lights, so it's easier to see. But you'll see that the arms, this is really not gonna help when I'm like this. You'll see that the arms go like this, and that's the way you're supposed to do it. That's how I felt when I was reading the directions. But once you get a little visual, and my high resolution, good camera stuff will show the picture much better. It'll be easier to see than the instructions, which didn't really help me. Unless I built it wrong, and then somebody will correct me, which has happened before. Just if I had trouble, someone else is gonna have trouble. Let's be real. I built more than one kit. I've messed up a lot, but this one I shouldn't have. Bag 4. So I'm gonna admit something. I think I'm getting old. I can't see so good. Or the instructions are small and the important details are not big enough. The back hinge pin setup, and it's crazy adjustable. Thank you, Associated, for thinking of me when I want to do 1/2 to 1 degree toe in, kick up adjustments, every sort of twisting of the hinge pins in the back. You can do it on this. You got these little inserts that go into the hinge pin carriers, and you can do toe in. You used to change the block, 2 degrees toe in, 3 degrees toe in. And then you had blocks to do the anti-dive, anti-squats crap in the back. Now it's all built into these little pills. Really smart, but you gotta show better pictures, because I may not be really smart. Maybe not really. I understand the dot concept, but figuring out which piece went in the front and back wasn't as easy, because you can't see in the little tiny picture. They almost look the same. They're not. I see. And the dot matrix, I think I got it right. You know, dot on the lower bottom outside, number 1. Doesn't matter which way the one's facing, just pay attention to the dot. And your hinge pins are gonna be right. We're gonna cross our fingers on that one. I may have to ask off camera if I'm got that shit right. But I'm on bag 5. I don't know where the screws are for holding the back brace on. Hopefully the next bag. Or it's something in the future. I think it probably screws the transmission together, so I'm not putting it together. But I just wanted to point out that that was a little complicated. Again, I'm going to try to figure out to get a better shot, stick it in this video. So if you're looking for, hey, I got my hinge pins all crossed, this will help a little bit. Or if not my fault. I didn't do the directions. So bag 5, but I'm going to go eat in the actual kitchen first, so I may be fatter when I get back. Same shirt though.
The rear hinge pin mounts have a wider offset, so the arms are technically going to be shorter with a longer distance between the 2 pins, and the inserts allow you to adjust anti-squat and toe-in angles and almost an infinite amount of turning with different 1/2 and 1 degree blocks.
Whew. All right, we're on to the transmission. Let's talk about transmissions. In my day, my transmissions weren't lazy. They didn't lay down on the job. They didn't get low. There's no limbo. But now, all modern cars have this lazy ass lay down transmission. What does that mean? It just means everything is lower CG. It's better. Higher traction. You can have the motor on the ground. You don't have to be way up top. A lot of things have changed with the advent of lipos and weight distribution. Tracks have evolved. Used to run on dirt where it was loose and you wanted some movement and you wanted maybe a higher CG just so the movement was slower, but this is faster and everything's laid down, you lazy son of a bitch transmissions. But this is the start of it. Thought I lost the bearing, but I'm just dumb and had one tucked twice in there. I was going crazy. Didn't know where it went, but I haven't built a thrust bearing in a while. I mean, they used to make ones that were captured, put a little grease in on the balls and then roll it on your fingers at the palm. That's what the instructions tell you to do. It's a solid tip. Just make sure you got all your balls in there. You don't want to be walking around with one less ball than you should be on your thrust bearing. Not a good idea. Still doing the tranny. I don't want to say that more than once, but it's this lay down transmission. It's pretty rad looking. Transmissions have changed over time. Used to be all 3 gears enclosed. Now you got 2 inside, 1 on the outside. Gears coming off every direction. One of the great things and not so great things, if you have very bad eyes, is that this car is full of adjustments, meaning you can adjust diff height, pin angles, all that stuff. And you got to be careful because it's very easy. The insert stock setup says 2 and a 1, very tiny little marks. It's 2, 1, I see them this time. But it's easy when you're putting this in. If one flips over, you're going to have a diff, all crooked and stuff. So just be careful. I mean, these are dumb tips. My takeaway from this is pay attention. Jesus, what a brilliant guy you are, Derek. But anyway, just pay attention. Got the diff in there. You got to put a little looby on there. It used to be self-lubricating gears back in the day, but now you need some little spit on it. And just follow directions and make sure everything's smooth. When you're screwing stuff together, just keep playing with it because you don't want it to feel notchy. Not that this did it all, but you can over-tighten things and you can under-tighten where you tweak the case. Or more importantly, you have your diffs all not lined up. So just pay attention. A lot of parts in this car that you can kind of screw up if you're not paying attention, if you're a beginner. If you're built this car before, it's going to be like, well, you're an idiot. Everybody's an idiot the first time. The second time, you're less of an idiot. Third time, we're on B6. So I'm 1/6 the idiot I used to be when it was the regular RC10. That's it. I'm building here. And I'm like, it's weird. I have some extra parts. I don't really know what they are for. Like, why do I have a baby idler gear when the other idler gear was like a grown-up? I'm looking at it, and I have 2 transmission cases. I already built this one. Remember when I talked about this lazy lay-down guy? Turns out, in the kit, I didn't read ahead. I'm just following the directions. And I think I luckily chose the lay-down transmission because I wasn't really paying attention. Maybe all of a sudden I thought this was a 4-wheel drive car with 2 cases. I'm not really sure. But I just matched the 2 together and realized the first time the little idler gear did not fit. So I was like, well, it must be the big idler gear. So this kit comes with 2 transmission choices, which makes me have to look at these other parts of what I have because now I'm not sure which ones, if I use the right ones. But I'm going to look at that in a second. It has a lay-down 3-gear and then a stand-up, I think 3-gear as well. But there's also an option of a 4-gear, and I'm not sure if you can stand up, lay down. I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. But I do know that in this kit, 2 choices. I luckily chose the lay-down version, which I think will work everywhere. But I'm going to test it on an outdoor track with less traction, so I'm going to probably switch this just to see what happens if I'm not lazy because there's a lot of bolts holding this together. But we'll see what happens. But so if you're saying I'm building this and I didn't read ahead like I did and then skip to the end to see what they recommend, the kit setup is with the lay down 3-gear. It says for lower traction stand up or whatever they call it, upish 3-gear. But I think it should have been more clear when you're building it that it should have said, hey, dummy, D is for dummy, D is for Derek. There's no coincidence. You have options here that aren't listed because it says when you're building it, optional parts were sway bars. I mean, I know these are in the kit, so they're not optional, but it's an optional tuning part. Just to, sometimes I wish somebody would send me the kit first and I'll build it and go, hey, this part's wrong, or I don't know what I'm doing. But so now I'm gonna go look at the parts I snapped onto this and see if I got lucky. Because there's also, this looks like the stand-up version. Different braces for the transmission. And different party hats to go on top. So I'm assuming that I picked, luckily, again, luck should be the L edition. I think I picked the right parts to go on this case. But I just want to point that out. You got some options that are not options, but optional. Not explained correctly in the instructions till the end. And even in the end, it just doesn't tell you anything but use the lay down one. So I don't know what to do with my hands.
That most of you are on high traction or close to high traction. So you'll be using the lay down like this, unlike me. So you can see the bigger idler gear and how almost everything's in line. Unlike the older transmissions that were almost vertical. This is now longer along the chassis and spread out. So cool looking transmission, very simple to build. The diff was simple, nothing crazy to build. The thrust bearing, you do have to be careful with the tiny little balls. If you got little balls, you always got to be careful. You got to roll them in your hand. Sounds getting weird right now, but transmission, you get two. So pick one before you build it all. That's the only thing I could tell you. I've mentioned it like 5 times. I'm going to mention it again, probably right now.
I could edit this video, because I'm not doing it live, to make me look a lot smarter. But I'm not here to do that. I'm smart enough. I'm trying to make you smarter and me smarter. So everything I just said about the laydown transmission, just take that back. So as I was looking at this and trying to figure out what I was supposed to build, I used my connector. I phoned a friend. Remember that show? And those friends are team associated. So I said, hey, I'm building this and it's not really clear what I'm supposed to do. It says lay down for high traction. I get it. I understand that. That's not this part I don't understand. But when I text them, they told me lay down is for slicks, which is super high traction. So the standard, if you're running on dirt, and they told me this, if you're running on slicks or very worn out tires, which are slicks almost, go with the lay down. Higher traction, lower the transmission. If you're going to run on dirt, which I plan on, slippery, not clay that looks like a pool table or a pool table, they recommend the stand-up. Now, obviously, you could try both, but I'm trying to start right. The lesson here is do your homework before you start building it. Associated has one of the great things about buying this car. This thing's super adjustable. You can adjust everything. Every part you can tune, which is not good for the beginner, but it's good for everybody else that races and wants to make little changes. Get a setup from wherever you're racing before you build it, so then you don't have to build it 2 times. Because I just took the whole transmission apart, and this one's now, they call this laid back. I'm kind of laid back, so it matches me. I should have gone with the laid back. I am lay down, not a lay down. I'm a laid back. Don't take that as weakness. But so, here we are. My hand hurts because I couldn't find my 2mm driver for my power screwdriver yet. Still looking. Found a 1.5. That don't help. I'm assuming because I pre-matched this up that the longer one that I had on there is the right one. These all brace in there for stuff. So if it's wrong, that'll be the easy one to fix. But I'm back on track. We're laid back, Snoop Dogg style. And I got the right info. I will say instructions are rather a little unclear on that one. Because even the kit setup says lay down for D, and that's not defined what that is. So giving you both is nice, but be more clear. And I know that's probably more clear on their website. But if you're like me and just crack into it and I'm going to put my head down and follow the directions, I need to know that I'm following the right ones or I'm making stuff up as I go, which is very possible. So I got to go to work, so you won't know. I'll just have a different shirt and the door may be open and the lighting may be a little bit brighter, darker, but I'm going to come back and try to knock this baby out as much as I can. In the video terms, that just means I'm gonna cut to a picture. You won't hear my dumb voice for a second or something, or you will. And then I'm gonna come back and finish the mistake that I did. I'll blame it on me. Associated, gotcha this time. And then we'll get this baby almost knocked out and start to get closer to the fun part, the driving part. All right, we're here. New day, new shirt, longer beard, grayer. Little update, because I had a little break here. And after my lay down, stand up, laid back, whatever transmission direction you want to run, and figuring it out on the instructions, I messed around with the slipper. And for whatever reason, in here, this slipper pad has like 92 geometrical. I knew there was geometry was going to come into play sometime in my life. Back in high school, when they're like, measure this degree. I don't know why the pattern is so complicated on the slipper pad. I'm going to ask, but I don't think there's going to be an answer that makes sense to me, because I can't imagine that having 32 squares and triangles to key up and then to screw through the back way, because this is the new design slipper where the actual slipper adjustment's on the other side, so it keys through. I can't imagine it needed to be there. And you hear the washer in the background. I'm going to close that door in a second. But my slipper pads were a little bit cupped, so it kind of created a spring. And it was kind of a pain in the ass to get it in there right. And I was trying to not cramp up my big fingers, little fingers, whatever they are. So slipper was a little bit of a pain in the butt. Look, this isn't a complaining, like, yeah, this car is so hard, I'm so mad at it. It's just pointing out the little things that are a little bit more difficult than easy. How about that? You know, it's not hard. It just takes a little patience. And I think it could have been, obviously, if the pads were flat, it would have been a little easier instead of it trying to spring out all the time. And then, you know, following the directions or following the directions that don't really tell you what to do. But anyway, not a complaint video. This is just me building it, screwing it up so you don't have to screw it up, or screwing it up with you because you may have screwed it up and watched my video and go, oh shit, Derek did that too. So we're in it together. Careful.
If my ever so eloquent words didn't describe the geometrical nightmare of that slipper pad, here it is. Mine was slightly cupped, creating a spring, but apparently this makes for a more consistent, easier to adjust slipper. So geometry wins.
Bag 7. Almost forgot to give an update. Rear hubs. Nothing crazy here. Just an aluminum mount on the outside screwed in. Remember Loctite? You don't want this thing rattling. It's not nitro, so it's not as going to rattle apart as fast, but it will loosen up. So just use Loctite. CVA axles. The pins are not captured. So like some that have a set screw that'll go through there and hold the pin. The bearing holds this pin in place. So just remember that when you're taking it apart, that this pin doesn't fall out. You have black grease holding a little bit, but if you lose the pin, you ain't working. One-wheel drive don't work. So just make sure to not lose the pin. That's really solid advice here. I'm a therapist, so don't lose your pins.
I'd like to talk about the rear hubs, but all I see is like a frog with a lollipop now, and I don't know what to talk about. But you got 5mm rear hexes that are secured on the pin, so you don't have to worry about it falling off. The hinge pin is actually screwed in, so no E-clips. The top has a kingpin, a vertical kingpin, so you can adjust a lot of stuff with shims. Pay attention because the addendum is there.
Bag 8, the Ocho. I'm going to hate it. And I'm not going to do anything on this video because it's tie rods. I'm going to swear, and I can't do it on video that much. Do a little bit. But I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Probably going to cost me a bunch of money in my swear jar. I don't even have one. I'm going to start one right now with these stupid tie rods. I didn't swear as much as I thought. These were easier than I thought. Which, I don't know if that means anything, that they're going to fall out apart, or it was a weird part, or whatever. They just learned not to make them a pain in the ass. But they're all on there, except for one that does the battery brace and the only other turnbuckle I see. So on to bag, is this 9? I don't know. I think it's 9. Started to lose count. Shocks. So we're going to be putting these bad boys together. They all come in little bags. Should be pretty easy, straightforward. easy to bleed. I mean, Associated Shocks, you know what I mean? Not too difficult. So let's put these together, and then I'll talk about how I don't know how to put shocks together, really what this video is about. Bag 9 times 9. I don't know if you watch Howard Stern. Shocks, they're done. V2, whatever they call them. There's an addendum to the shocks that's online. It's not in there. It's good to print out and then probably cut it and put it over so you don't forget, because it's a pretty big one. In the bottom of the shock, there's a black, they call it like a hat washer that keys into the bottom of the bottom cap here. It doesn't show it in the original instructions. Very important, because that you're going to be missing something and then you start leaking oil. So make sure to pay attention to that. But it goes party hat, X washer, black spacer, party hat, or not party hat, X washer, party hat in the top. They say use green slime. I'm not a Ghostbuster. I didn't have any. Probably should have some. I think I do somewhere. I didn't look too hard, but that's to pack the O-rings, kind of help it from leaking. These are Emulsion Shocks, and we got a bleeder. These are bleeder caps right here. So you put the oil in, push the shock shaft off, bleed it out the top, then screw the top in. So the thing with Emulsion Shocks is, maybe you can hear it, what emulsion means is air and oil, like salad dressing. So they're not going to be quiet, because they got to pump up and get some air in there and turn into emulsion, spittle, whatever you want to call it. So you can put bladders in there, and then you have the compressions different. It's push more rebound out. So it's just make them right, do what they say, push it out. And if you hear some squeaks, that's fine. One thing I did notice, and I'm not sure this is me, I'm going to go back and make sure I didn't miss a washer somewhere, but the front end seems to have a lot of noise. So usually an Associated car had a wear in, like it was too tight. So this one's a little here. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just noticed that when I was touching it, felt like I missed something. I had to go flip back through the instruction and go, hey, am I missing a washer? I'm checking all the 1mm, but should be good. Anyway, bag 9 complete. I'm moving on to right towards the end here. Bag 10, I see. And then I gotta wait for some wheels and tires, Proline, hurry it up. And Joe should be painting this body already. And we're gonna be ready to roll. But, and then I'll wrap this whole thing up. I gotta put some electronics in too. I actually have them all. This is like a first for me. And I'll wrap up what I thought of the build of the B6.3D.
All right, I cheated. This is not my car. It's the stock photography from Team Associated. I'm not going to get into overall design of the car, because that's what my review will be. This is just sort of a dumb Derek builds this stuff in his kitchen / not kitchen, as I said. So here's what your car should look like, maybe with some wires, because that's how cars work. We need wires these days. We're not wireless yet. So B6.3D, I think they have the laydown transmission there, but here you go.
Here we are, the final stages. And I burnt my thumb on a sandwich today. I don't know if anybody's ever done that, but it's worth noting. A couple things left to do. I'm going to do a little soldering. Get the motor in. Put the receiver in. Joe Neary's got a sister body. It's being painted. A little special paint job for me. We're just going to swap bodies. Body swappers. And waiting for tires. But this video is not about driving. It's about the build and what I found out about myself as a person. Am I a better person for building this? Hell yeah, I am. Everybody should build a kit at least once in their life, if not every year. If you've never raced two-wheel drive buggy and you're asking yourself, should you? The answer is yes. Is it hard? Yes. Start with the 17.5 class. You're not going to be fast. That's okay. It's the toughest class to be fast because it's supposed to be even. That means you have to drive. But it also means you need some good shit. And the car's good. Build's nice. Obviously through my years and my pessimism, realism, I don't know what you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. There's a few issues with building, but you can get over it.
just like me, call the engineers. They'll tell you what to do. Email them, look it up in pictures. Hopefully some of my little tips of paying attention. And we did a live video where Charlie's like, hey, in the beginning of the manual, it says to read your entire manual first before you start building. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, because I thought about that, and while it does say familiarize yourself with the instructions, if I flip through this, it doesn't tell me there's 2 transmissions. It doesn't tell me what to use it for. So maybe it would have saved me a little trouble, but I think for the most part, you need to put in, if you do a revision or in the future, Team Associated, if you have an option build in the kit, put a big freaking stop sign and says, stop, this is a choose your destiny story. Remember those dumb books where it's like, if you go to the left, you end this way. If you go to the right, you end this way. Well, in this case, you got a laid back, laid down transmission options for 2 different traction levels. It doesn't really give you advice when you should use it, other than they said slicks. So high traction, obviously lay down, lower traction, stand up. You have both. It takes 30 minutes to switch them anyways. Pay attention to the bracing. Pay attention to pin angles. Just build it, and honestly, if you build it slower, better. I got the same shirt back on. I changed it. This is like, it's been over 4 days. I didn't sit down and just hammer this out. I sat down and have to do a video, and I have to figure out what the heck I'm going to talk about. It's a lot of work. But overall, you're in my kitchen, but you're not in my kitchen. You're in my office now. So I'm not going to change the name of this video series. It's You're in Derek's Kitchen. Someday maybe I'll be back in my kitchen. This way I can watch TV and do this crap instead of looking at myself. But the next video will be the drive video, the full review, the ones that we all care about more than the build. But in the end, awesome kit to build. High quality, really goes together easy. Got to pay attention. I get that. I don't. So I'm not paying attention for you, for the person to... You don't have to pay attention either now. You watch this video and say, I don't know what he's talking about, and I built the kit and I still know what I'm talking about. So, little soldering action. I'm not going to take any video of that, but final thoughts. B6.3 with the D for dirt. You carpet guys, I'm not really into you. But I get it. I don't really like you. And stay tuned for more videos and tips. I don't think these are any tips that I gave you, other than you probably wasted a lot of your time watching this. But thank you. Till the next build, or just the ready to run in my kitchen, which is a hell of a lot easier. Subscribe to the magazine, hit the bell on this video, like whatever the heck this stupid stuff is. Subscribe. How hard is this stuff? You like it. If you watched it to this point where I'm asking you to do it, I immediately think I should watch the number go up. At least one. Like it. To the dude that's going to automatically thumb this down, I probably know who you are. You're an asshole. So, I get you. Yeah. It's funny every time. Team Associated. Velocity RC Cars magazine. Probably be on the cover. If it's not, I just lied, but I'll make it happen. I know somebody.